get your set point of where you're vibing at first, and then head on out into the day where you can actually be of service to someone rather than coming from total overwhelm. So don't be too eager to start your day the second that you open your eyes. You want to get solid in your stance first. You matter too. Your wellness counts too. So that would be the first thing. All right. So, in this episode of Six Figure Health Coach, we're going to dive into leveraging your time to avoid burnout. There isn't much point of creating a six-figure health coaching practice if you're burnt out and you've sacrificed your health. So let's not do that. That is the default pattern that most people will fall into, but it doesn't have to be that way. And in fact, the only way really to sustain a six-figure health coaching practice is to be able to have a way to leverage your time. That's how you get to six figures, but it's also how you can scale beyond six figures and enjoy yourself, your family, your relationships, and be in integrity with what you are demonstrating to your clients. You want to walk your talk. So, how do we do that? How do we leverage our time? Let's go through a number of ways. So, the reason I tie these two things together is because if you are trading time for money, there's a limit on your time. So there is a limit on your money. So if we want to make a difference and we want to make a six-figure difference, and if you've been listening to some of these episodes, you get why it is important to have a six-figure health coaching practice. So how do we sustain that? How do we leverage our time? So the first thing is you want to package your program so that it delivers results, so that it's not, I'm going to charge you X so many dollars per hour and you tell me how many hours you want of my service. How do we know when we won? How do we know when we got them the result? Usually that type of thing is more like therapy, for example, or a different business model. So sometimes trading time for money is appropriate, but in a coaching practice, and if you're trying to reach six figures, we have to get rid of that. You want to deliver real results. What people are wanting are results. They're not necessarily paying to chit chat. If push comes to shove and they only have so many dollars to spend, and they have to choose between chatting with you or going on a trip, buying a car, feeding their family, you're going to lose out every time. But on the other hand, if you create a program that solves a problem, if you help people who are in pain get out of pain, or who want to lose weight to lose weight, or overcome their particular condition, and you help them do that, then if they want that result, they will choose you over other things, even like a trip or a car, a trip they can't enjoy because of the pain they're in, for example, or the excess weight that is weighing them down. So you all of a sudden get bumped up on the priority list, but you got to deliver some real results that people are really wanting. So the first way we can leverage our time is by structuring our program to deliver a result as opposed to trading time for dollars. Because otherwise, the only way for you to make more money is to work more hours. That leads to burnout, and it doesn't necessarily give the client better results. The second thing, you want to streamline your process. Online modules are a fantastic way to deliver bonus value. You can even streamline that further. The very first time that you teach something, you can teach your beta client, for example, and an early client. You can record that training, that teaching, and then you can then teach subsequent classes online through your video modules. So teaching it once, it's kind of like cook once, eat twice. It's like teach once and train multiple times as well. So having online modules allows your client to get even greater value. They can watch it from the comfort of their home, in their time zone. When they're able to do it, they can fit it into the nooks and crannies of their time. And then on your actual coaching calls, if you decide to still have those, you could check for questions, check feedback, clarify, and you can really hold the space for their transformation. But they can get some really great things. And you will find after you've had 10 clients go through your program, you're going to feel like a broken record. And the first time you could say it all exciting and with enthusiasm and passion. And by the 10th, it's like if you have kids, you know what it's like to have to say the same thing over and over and over again. It gets old and you don't have that initial enthusiasm. So sometimes the first time it's a little shaky. You're not really sure what you want to say. You're finding your way. But somewhere in there, between the second and fifth time, generally, you'll want to record your trainings. And then many people can watch it, many more than you could talk to one-on-one in a day. And you can take that same valuable training and reach it out to more people, which leads to the other way to leverage your time, and that is to work in groups. So it depends on your niche and it depends on you and your comfort, but teaching a group can be fantastic. Now, I used to believe that group was just for people who couldn't afford free. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. I've invested thousands, in fact, $50,000 in mentorships, which was at its core a group coaching program. There was no one-on-one calls whatsoever, and I got tremendous value out of that. Now, it depends on the group, but it is very common for people to learn better when they're not in the hot seat. So if somebody else is being coached on a particular issue, sometimes it's easier for somebody in the wings to not be on the spot and be able to get the training, the learning better. And they will have answers to questions before they even had them. You can head them off at the pass from falling into pits and canyons that are out there. So you will see that you can also teach by example. So as somebody else is getting great results, that will reinforce what you're teaching. So let's say you teach people how to lose weight, and one of the things that you do is you help them eliminate gluten and drink water. And you have someone go through this program and they've lost 40 pounds or 50 pounds and they look amazing. And everybody's like, wow, how did they do that? Now, when they say the exact same thing that you taught, it's going to sink in better. And when that person says, yeah, I wasn't sure, I was skeptical, it was actually easier than I thought, their results will help reinforce what you are trying to teach them. So when I am teaching clients about how to create six-figure health coaching practices, and I'll have a client that does, well, we just had one that she just graduated about 6 weeks ago. And in this first quarter, she has already earned $23,000. So now everybody is like, how do you do that? Now, if I was one-on-one with people, they wouldn't hear her story. And she is saying, I did exactly what Shaunna said. I just followed the steps. I went in order. I carved out a niche. All of the things that I'm teaching to you on these podcasts. So, but they will listen more keenly, which is why I'm going to be interviewing a number of these amazing health coaches here, so you can hear it from them, because that is valuable teaching. So sometimes people think, and I used to as well, that group is less than. In fact, it can be absolutely more than, and it can be an uplifting, supportive community. We have within the Health Professional Academy clients supporting clients. They are coming onto each other's podcasts and webinars and collaborating on joint ventures and really referring friends and family to people who could benefit from somebody's particular area of expertise. It's like, wow, this person helps people with brain injuries. I don't know much about it, but I'm going to send them over there. Or, oh, she helps people get through multiple sclerosis. I'm going to send them over to Trish. Or this person helps people with seizures. I'm going to send them over to Kate. And so as people carve out those areas of expertise, they can see that. But if it was just me and that one person, they would be deprived of all of that bonus value. So that's something also to consider. And then the last thing that really can help leverage time is online. So my program is 100% virtual. And I didn't know well, I'm not sure if I can say this word or if I get banned. But when the events of 2020 happened, I was already 100% virtual. And so I didn't skip a beat. I was able to just continue to grow and thrive, and nothing shut down for me. So I have tried everything: in person, in meeting in coffee shops, having people in my home. I've tried all sorts of things, and I absolutely love virtual and one-on-one as well as group. I prefer a hybrid at the moment. That's my favorite. So you can coach one to one, but be virtual as well. And as I say, if you can leverage it with some group support, some online modules, that's fantastic. And then having a Zoom or some other visual face-to-face video is really fantastic way to coach. And then you've opened up your audience globally. But here's what I noticed when I coached people one-on-one in my sunroom. So on one hand, it was lovely. I had spa music in the background. We looked out over the river. We were in my sunroom that had a beautiful fireplace in it, and we would sip our green tea, and it was great. And it was the best I could at that point in time. But here's the downfalls of that. It was in my home. So I have 4 children, and they were younger at that time. And I had to make sure they were quiet. I had to make sure the house was clean. I also had dogs, so I had to make sure the dogs were quiet. And I would clean up, I would prep the tea, I would have to clean up afterwards. And people would come, and I was so used to entertaining people in my home that, unlike a doctor's office, a clinic office, or a Zoom meeting, but unlike those scenarios where there might be a receptionist say your next appointment's here or anything like that, it blurred the boundary. And so people were apt to go long. It was harder for me to um, cut that meeting short when there wasn't anyone coming in and they knew that they were just in my home. And I was so used to welcoming people and being the gracious host in my home and not booting them out. So that was not helpful, actually, to spend that much time. For one, people couldn't nearly pay me what I was earning as a doctor. So every moment that I was spending with them, I was hemorrhaging money. But when those moments took up more and more of our time, it took more time away from my family. And one appointment would take kind of all afternoon or all morning, which was not efficient at all. And then what also happened is, if the client had something else come up that day, maybe they're picking up their sister from the airport, and instead of coming to the appointment, which they would say, because they were used to the tradition of it taking longer and enjoying it, they would cancel. And if I wasn't connecting with them every week and we were going every other week, what I found was, if I had to go 3 or 4 weeks between visits, no news was not good news. So what happened when I initially went to phone, this was before the days of Zoom, and I've been using Zoom for years, but before the days of Zoom, I switched over to phone, and then now to Zoom, and it was incredible. So then if somebody had to go pick up their sister from the airport, they know it's 45 minutes. I can set a timer. There's a timer tab you can get if you want to keep track of your meetings. And there was somebody coming right in, and I could open up my office. I could have these boundaries on my time. I was 5-second commute from my bedroom to my boardroom here, and I could speak to people all over the world, give them my best. And then when it was time to be done, 45 minutes, 50 minutes, an hour later, it was off and on to the next person. And it was very easy for us to keep track of time and then be there for that next person that was coming in. This way, they didn't have to cancel, and they kept their appointments. They were meaningful, and they kept their appointments, and they showed up for themselves. So they got better results. I got better results. I was able to help more people. I was able to make a greater difference. So some of those things are great ways to leverage your time. Then, big picture, leveraging your time, especially if you're a mom or have other commitments work-wise. uh, you're going to want to set up a template. So when I ventured out here, I didn't even know if six figures was possible. And I tried to piece together mentors as best as I could. And they were primarily single men with no kids. And I was a married mom, a full-time doctor, and I had 4 kids in 5 years. So there were some things that they were suggesting that was like, just not really practical for me at the time. So I had to find another way to get this done. I had to be super efficient with my time in order to survive, because who else is doing the laundry? Who else is going to the field trips with the kids? I wanted to still be the mom, but I also still wanted to have a successful health coaching practice. I wanted to have both. And you can, but you're going to want to set up some times. So you definitely want to set hours of operation. When do you start your work and when do you end your work? You're also going to want to have protected time. So first thing you do, block off your sleep. Let's get that in there. Next thing you do, block off your other non-negotiable commitments. Do you have another job? Do you have to be at a certain place? Are there hours when there is no way that you can work on this business? Block those in. Then what other things are your non-negotiables? It might be a commitment that you have to the gym or to the track or to the church, or something that you have a practice. Maybe you got a commitment to your yoga mat. Write that in, put that time for you. I recommend fueling yourself up first thing in the morning. So as soon as you open your eyes, don't go straight to your meetings, your emails, your social media. Your day will get hijacked. Instead, you want to start fueling yourself up. Personally, I like to do meditation, yoga, do your exercise first thing in the morning. You can do a gratitude list, morning or night. For those, I do both, or an appreciation list, as I call it. So do some of those things first, get your set point of where you're vibing at first, and then head on out into the day where you can actually be of service to someone rather than coming from total overwhelm. So don't be too eager to start your day the second that you open your eyes. You want to get solid in your stance first. You matter too. Your wellness counts too. So that would be the first thing. Then I would block some time, and then I would have like a no fly zone. So I had like this 4 to 6 p.m. was what I called a no fly zone. So there was no sales calls or coaching calls or any of those type of things or that kind of work when my kids, when they were younger, would come home from school, because that was homework time. How are you doing? What happened today? Here's dinner. We're making dinner. We're going to eat as a family. And so that became like a routine and a ritual as much as possible. Depends where we're picking up my story. There was a time when I was at the hospital and on call. And so I missed lots of things. But once I was moving over into health coaching, these were some parameters that I had set up. So set up your time zones. Now, what's left in your calendar? Where are the pockets of your time that you can start to carve out and create this health coaching practice? And in those hours, your first priority is to increase awareness of what you do. So once you have your expert niche, once you know what you would walk people through, the steps that you'd walk people through to get them from point A to point B, then you're going to want to bring in the clients. Sometimes people have all this time they set aside for coaching clients and they don't have any clients to coach. So if you have no clients to coach, then your focus is increasing awareness of what you do, getting in front of people and letting them know what you do. Other people's audience is ideal. So how do you get your message out there into the world? Then they're going to hop on your calendar. So you want to set aside time in your calendar for appointments. And so you'll have appointments where you're initially meeting people and talking to them. And then you'll have set aside some time when you're actually coaching them, and depending on how much of a one-on-one or group scenario that you have going on. So pick your days. It doesn't have to be Monday to Sunday, 24/7 that you are available. That's not helpful. In fact, the more you're available, the less people want on there, because they're like, well, they can't be very good. Nobody else is booking. So you want to set your parameters of your times when you're available and stick with that. Now, eventually, as you fill up your calendar, that is going to need to expand into other areas, but you still want to have time to refuel you. A lot of times that's a weekend, but it depends on your schedule. That might be the time you're building your business. So I've been through all those different phases, but let's say Monday to Friday is when you're thinking of working on your business. Let's say on the weekend is when you're mainly focused on enjoying your family and your other activities and walking the dog and doing some hobbies. So keep that time protected. Don't book it all up. Or alternatively, it's a Saturday morning, it's a Sunday morning, but keep it the same each week so you can get into the rhythm. Now, the other thing that I did is I took one day a week. Usually it was a Friday initially, and I did not book appointments on that Friday. That Friday was for other things like hair appointments, doctor's appointments, meeting with banks, accountants, team assistants. Other things would go on that day, and it could be emergency overflow. So if I did have time and I hadn't otherwise booked it, it would go there. But that way, on my regular Monday to Thursday, I can book those calendar spots all the way up. And I know that I won't accidentally book in and double book myself and find myself I'm at a hairdresser's place and I can't make it back in time for my clients. That never happened. So I was always able to be there for my clients, and then I had a separate time aside. And then those other things, those jobs that you happen to be doing, I don't know whether it is making dinner or doing groceries or doing laundry or mowing the lawn or whatever the other tasks are. If they're a repetitive task, schedule it in. So maybe Saturday mornings is cleaning the house, or maybe there's a certain day. The more that you can streamline it and make it similar so that there's a structure and you can live and you can get a lot accomplished when you have a structure. But if you're always trying to figure out when you're going to do things, you slow yourself down. If you always had to figure out when in a day you were going to sleep, that would slow you down because that's something that you have to decide. But if you know it's at night, you sleep at night, then that's helpful. Now, people who do shift work, no, that's not always the possible answer that they can give. And they know how much that slows them down. So your particular things that are repetitive, the more that you can create a structure, and then everybody is different and unique in terms of how structured they like to be. People, some just like it really free flowing and super spontaneous, and others like it down to the minute. So respect your bio individuality, your uniqueness, what feels good for you. Absolutely. But have some sort of structure so that it doesn't float into chaos, but then don't have it too tightly structured that it's just a setup for failure because there's no way you can adhere to it. So those are some of my best tips to leverage your time. Just know that there are many facets to you, and you want to make sure that you get your priorities. If your relationships, your family, your health are a priority, let's make some time for them on your calendar. All right. Leverage, whether it's online groups, getting rid of the trading time for money, some of these things, start to implement them in your practice that allows you to reach that six-figure income without burning out. With that, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have some time-saving tips, feel free to pop them in the comments. If you have a question, head over to drshaunna.com. And with that, I'm excited to tell you about our next episode where we are talking about how to attract your clients' attention. That's important. You can have all this great stuff, but how do we get those clients over onto our calendars so that we can help them? So that's what we're going to dive into in the next episode. I will see you there. Have a great week, everyone. Be good for you.